Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, and, it's nearly the end of the season. Find out if Nottingham Forest managed to go through to the final. Find out what's been going on in the rest of the football world. Big stuff's been happening, even though the season's coming to a close. So check that out. While I've got you, before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. If you've got a few minutes, please do consider leaving a review. All of those things help the podcast, and we really appreciate anything that you might be able to do. Right, let's get going. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Paul! Thank you very much, Mr. Cook. Yes, that is correct, ladies and gentlemen. The recording is indeed in progress, and you may be mistaken or forgiven for thinking that Matt Moore looks like he hasn't slept in 24 hours. Might be a little bit of foreshadowing as to the result that came from last week's games, but we'll get to that in all good time. Yes, welcome along to. I said it the last couple of weeks, but one of your last football-based nonsenseries for this particular season. But yes, it is the hours are counting down. They're whiling away. They're against us, shall we say? But we'll strive to give you another, a little bit of football-based chatter and nonsense. So let's dive into the result that might have kept Mr. Moore awake, so to speak. The book has made its way into shop. Let's get down to business.
So, a semi-final, and it started out with a little game where Sheffield United went up against Nottingham Forest. So Matthew, lay it on us thick. How was the Sheffield United Nottingham Forest game?
Well, I spent Saturday afternoon ignoring it completely, trying to pretend that it didn't happen. And then Mr. Woodmansey kindly informed me after the game had finished that it was all good. And we could just crack on from there. Forest came out 2-1 winners. Now, people might, listeners of this kind of thing might hear a word name pop up every now and again, being as Stu kind of snappled the point once upon a time from Jack Colbeck, and he was back in the goals for the first time in this game. Then Forest doubled their lead through Joe Lolly dispossessing one of the Sheffield United defenders, slipping it to Brennan Johnson, and as former Forest flop Jack Robinson said, they celebrated like they'd won the whole tie. Yeah, because people celebrate goals. That's kind of part of it. We might as well just all kind of shake hands, walk back to the halfway line. And then in the 91st minute, Sheffield United pulled the goal back and kind of acted like they'd equalised in the tie. So, they didn't celebrate their tie. They just kind of turned around and got on with it, didn't they? The first tie finished off 2-1. Apparently a dominant Forest display. Soured by the goal at the end of the thing. But that wouldn't have mattered at all.
So, I've been trying to work out how best to do this. I was going to do the put your hands up if you put Forest down to win. I was going to do the the multitude of different ways of doing this, but let's just get it out of the way. Paul and Stu, you had Sheffield United down to win. Bit of reverse psychology there. Love it. You did not get the goal scorer for Sheffield United, and you didn't predict any for Nottingham Forest, so you are both out of the points, I'm afraid. Matt went with a classic 1-1 draw and didn't get any of the goal scorers, so Matt, you are also out of the points. Paul has already clocked it. I put Forest down to win. And everybody knows my two favourite goal scorers, so I picked a point for Johnson, so 2 points for me. Moving swiftly on.
Just before we move swiftly on, obviously massive fail against the podcast boys, as we failed to realise in our preview that Nottingham Forest would sadly have been. Not Nottingham Forest, sorry, Sheffield United were without a single frontline first team recognised striking option for both playoff games. Even better when you consider into that I believe in all of our predictions we had picked at least one of the frontline first team Sheffield United strikers to have scored a goal in the game. So that was an oversight at best, I suppose you could probably say.
It wasn't really out there though that it was a thing. I think like Heckingbottom had kind of hinted to the fact that Billy Sharp might be back, or that one of their strikers might be back. I think he kind of, not only were the mind games played with us. They were, not only were the mind games played with the world, they also played mind games with us, and completely muffed up our predictions. So,
well, wanker.
Mm-hmm.
But more on that shortly.
So, Matt, how were you feeling after this game, and the double question going into the next game?
Sick, just sick. Just like sick, just yeah. The result was good, but you just think that I think as I've heard multiple times for the past week, it's 23 years since Forest, since Forest were in the Premier League. It's they've been down to League One and they spent 3 seasons down there and they've done this and they've done that and this. Oh, whoa, terrible. Oh, it's like a fantasy. It's a miracle. And you're kind of like, but it's gonna go wrong, and 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 it just like, do you want to crack on with last night's game?
Before cracking on with last night's game, what would Forest have needed to continue on in the tournament?
Just a 0-0 draw would have been fine. We just didn't need to lose.
Just didn't need to lose.
Anything but a negative result, and they'd have been through to the final.
Okay, so how did last night's game go?
Well, I don't know if I messaged you guys.
85.
Well, I don't know if I messaged you this specific message. I put it on. I came downstairs. I put it on, and it started. And I was like, I looked at the clock, and I was like, this has got to be the longest 5 minutes of my life. That first 5 minutes was just so like, you think, if it's going to be like this, then it's going to be a really, really long time. So I don't know if I messaged that, but I was like, that first 5-10 minutes was so long. And then obviously, Forest scored. Brennan Johnson scored a very nice finish. And at that point, I was like, right, here we go. We've got the goal. We've settled down. start playing some football, keep the ball. It was. I think someone mentioned. I think either one of you guys or one of the commentators mentioned it was very reminiscent of the second half against Bournemouth, and I was like, yeah, seen that before. And they just didn't keep the ball. It was a lot of head tennis. It was a lot of hoofing. It was a lot of kind of thing. And I was just like, the game just bypassed our best players. So, Zinchenko didn't really get much of a touch in the game. Garner was non-existent.
I have to say though, that guy absolutely ran his nuts off last night. He was everywhere, but he couldn't get off it.
But it was just completely bypassing him. It was a complete. I don't know who came up with the game plan, or whether they just didn't follow the game plan, because hoofing it up. Obviously I didn't see that much of Saturdays, but I can't imagine they played like that on Saturday. And it's just like someone had said, listen lads, near the end of the season, we don't want to spend any more money on the pitch, so if you just don't play in this bit, because we really need to keep that bit of grass, alright? It's like when your dad comes out and bollocks you because you've been playing on the newly laid bit of lawn, and like, what have I told you about playing on that little bit of lawn? Like someone said, don't play on that, and it was just like, right, it wasn't working, and at no point did anybody go, just stop. I don't know whether it's like it gets to the point where it's just we can't stop, or Forest took the lead, and you think, right, okay, that's settled down. We've got a 2-goal lead. That's a nice cushion. As we discussed, just 0-0 would have got taken us through to the playoff final. But then it was just edgy and nervous, and Samba made a really good save before the goal, and made several good saves after that, and they were always on the back foot. And then I think someone said, the last thing, the only thing they need to not do is concede straight after half time. And duly obliged with the first goal that went in from Gibbs White, I want to say.
Yep.
So Morgan Gibbs White scored that one, and you just thought, I just had flashbacks to not last season, but the season before, when they just completely crumbled against Stoke. You just thought they were clinging on, I think was the only way you could describe it.
It was crazy, because I mean, we've all seen our teams do this, where you've been completely in control of a game, and then half time just seems to come sort of almost at the wrong time, where the game just resets, and then as soon as you come out in the second half, they basically either just all shat themselves at half time and just completely forgot the game plan. But they looked like the stereotypical different side when they came back out for the second half. And I don't know if it was just that the occasion had just taken a few of them, like it was just too much for them, I don't know. But it was ridiculous how different they were when they came out for the second half.
Points in that second half where it's not that they looked like a different team, it looked like they'd never bloody met. Like you would not have said that team finished fourth in the league looking at that second half performance at all. And I mean, I guess they paid for it though, really, in that regard.
And I thought, we kind of glossed over, and I think at a time when I think if they could have just weathered the storm for the first kind of 10-15 minutes of that second half, we all commented on the fact that it looked like Sheffield United had lost it. There was, the manager had forcibly thrown the ball into Jed Spence's stomach, because they were gamesmanship and not playing to the tempo that he wanted.
Yeah, a Sheffield United fan that I spoke to said that he was time wasting, and I had to explain to him, I don't think you can time waste in the 30th minute of a game. It's quite difficult to do that, to be honest.
And even if you do waste it, 10-15 seconds, also wastes time. You bell end of a manager throwing the ball into his stomach and then causing a melee, then to be booked as well. I'm just like, and then it looked but then the obviously the reaction. We kind of talked about the attitude of Forest that I'm not particularly keen on, but they'll set about winding people up and kind of getting involved. And of course, the moment that it happened, Brennan Johnson was over there, but then all the Sheffield United players piled in, and then then at half time something weird was going on where obviously Steve Cooper kept the Forest players out on the pitch and let Sheffield United go in because, I don't know if they were spoiling for a fight or something like that. There was a nasty edge all night. There was a lot of kicking. Brennan Johnson got kicked around the pitch.
That guy had a target on his back because every 3 or 4 minutes he was getting flattened. But the thing about the half-time keeping him out the tunnel thing, don't get me wrong, if they'd have gone down the tunnel and had a big old punch-up, that would have been no good for anybody. But it was almost as if keeping them back gave Sheffield United that sort of superiority complex for the second half. Because they went...
Stomp the flag in the ground kind of thing, and right, it's out. Your pitch is now ours kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not saying keeping him out was the wrong decision because it could have ended much. Thankfully, it could have ended much worse than it did. But I don't know. I don't know if that as the home team, do you insist that you go in and leave the others to it, sort of thing? Surely the players have got to be disciplined enough to. If somebody comes at you, obviously, stick up for yourself, but don't make it worse because then it'll be the rest of them that get done for.
I think the only thing about it was that Sheffield United got in there first, and that's the only reason I can assume that they didn't kind of do it was that they got in there first. And it was like, all right, well, there's no point in going. Like you said, you don't want to get yourself in a punch-up, sent off, and banned hopefully for the final that you're in. So then, I kind of jumped forward. So obviously, straight after half-time, Gibbs White scored, and then John Fleck evened up the tie on aggregate, as it were. I don't want to kind of hint at the fact that I had the tie would be even on aggregate after the full 2 matches, but and it just kind of. It was like on the edge of your seat stuff, I think, until Forest brought on Keenan Davis, who I thought really kind of managed to stretch the match and stretch the kind of. He was wearing his gloves on the hottest day of the year so far, but he seemed to really kind of stretch the game and put them under pressure and stuff like that, and really kind of harass them and hurry them, which made a bit of a difference, and I think just about dragged Forest to full time, I think.
Well, like I said to you, there was a point in that second half, and then all the way throughout the extra time that obviously we'll get on to in a minute. He was their only out ball at one point. And he was the only guy who was looking to sort of pick the ball up, and it was detrimental to Forest's game plan really, because obviously he's playing as the central striker, and if he's having to drop to almost the edge of his own box at times to pick the ball up and carry it. It was just completely putting Forest on the back foot, and the main problem they seemed to have for large periods of that second half was that they were so under the cosh and they were playing so deep that every time they did get the ball back, they'd invariably just hoof it long, and there was no one there for the ball to stick with, so they were just going straight back under pressure again. So again, worrying that Cooper didn't spot that and just have a word with someone and just say, listen, just the next time the ball goes out, just take 30 seconds just to sort of stop.
I think it's the one kind of, I think they brought in Steve Cook to be the grown up in the room, but obviously he hasn't been at the club that long. But they're a very young side apart from him. I think that's the issue. I think when you look at the rest of the team, they're probably very much under 26, 27. I don't think there's many players over that kind of thing. So it's still quite a young side. Not making excuses for it, but they need that kind of grown up to grab them and say, come on, what are we doing here? Let's get back to the game plan. Let's kind of get to, obviously this is not working. Whatever this is right now is not working. Jack Colbeck should be that as well. And I thought he was quite passive and just got involved in silly stuff. But yeah, so finished at the end of 90 minutes, 2-1 to Sheffield United, and on to extra time. It was a more lively extra time than normal. The one standout moment was Samba's save from, was it Njai or something like that?
Just what I think it was a shot by Ndai. Yeah, I think I could watch that clip back 10 times and still not realise how the hell he's kept it out, because I think it is a good save, but I think you have to look at it for what it was. It was an incredible slice of luck, basically.
Oh, gotcha.
Because all these, it's definitely hit him rather than he saved it. He's obviously sort of jumped to sort of put the guy off, or just to sort of, and it's basically sort of flicked off the bottom of his shoe and deflected away. But at the time, it's that age old goalkeeper like sort of thing of, don't matter if it comes off your left bollock via one pube. If it don't go in the net, you will fucking take it. Yeah. So, didn't matter how he kept it out of the net, he did. So, that's all that matters.
Yeah, so...
It's the making yourself big is how they... yeah.
I mean, he used every last inch of him was used on that save, because it was just like, it was thingy. So... Yeah, so get to the end of full time, end of extra time. So still 2-1 to Sheffield United. Takes us into penalties, which is just the worst. I don't know. Like it was a funny one, because obviously you do the whole kind of pick which end you're going to play at. Obviously Forest have done something crafty this year where they've split the Bridgeford end, so you got half and half. So it's kind of effectively, it doesn't matter which end you're going to be shooting towards Forest fans. Obviously, Sheffield United won, picked their end. And bizarrely, was it Norwood? When I saw him pick up the ball and just wander down to the goal, I was thinking, what are you doing, mate? Because I'd be waiting right till the thing. I thought, don't want to be too cocky, but I was just sat there thinking, there's a good chance he's going to miss this one. And yeah, comes up, misses, decent save.
I'm going to say, definite little bit of kudos has to go to Brees on that one, because he definitely, how should we put this, played around with the amount of time that it would be socially acceptable for him to make the player wait for.
Well, even if he did that, I think the fact that Norwood had gone way before, the ref wasn't down there, neither keeper was down there, so you can kind of understand if, like, the ref was there, Sheffield United keeper was down there, Norwood was down there, and Brees was, like, putting his gloves on the halfway line.
Did they see out the coverage that he'd been stood with the ball for at least 90 seconds? He'd been stood pretty much stock still, just with the ball in his hands for 90 seconds.
Yeah. Well, stood in the middle of the 18-yard box.
He'd already gone and put the ball on the spot, and they have to do that thing before the penalty kicks can start, where the referee asks, almost like the boxers kind of like, want a clean fight here, lads, and he goes to speak to the keepers, didn't he? The ref hadn't even gone to even start talking to the goalkeepers, and he was already stood there waiting. He brought that on himself big time.
He definitely put himself under undue pressure, but I think he is their penalty taker outside of the strikers. So in his head, obviously, he was just trying to do what he felt was best, I suppose. But strange.
Then I was going to say, but I can't remember that. Forest scored. I mean, you never. I don't know. As watching England play and Forest play, you kind of never think that they're going to win penalty. You never think your team's going to win a penalty shootout. Nobody goes in thinking you're going to win a penalty shootout.
No.
It took my lot 104 years to win one, so, I can vouch for that.
Were you there?
Yeah. I mean, they weren't just doing penalties for 104 years, by the way. That came out wrong, but you know what I mean.
Isn't it? It wasn't like, I'm sure we covered this in a podcast that, like, in the archives, treat yourself, go back, find it. I'm pretty sure you'd said that Hull were involved in the very first penalty shootout, were they not?
Correct. Yep. Against Manchester United back in the olden days. I think it was might have even been 50 something maybe.
I think. Well, I think from recollection, I think Best was playing for Man United. So.
But yeah. So and then who was the first penalty shootout that we won, Paul?
Was it against Pools?
I think it was against Pools.
You fucking. Go on, Matthew.
I can't remember who was the next Sheffield United one to miss.
Conor Hourihane, and I absolutely loved it.
That was a bizarre one, wasn't it? Because he went down the middle and somehow didn't.
On the coverage, they even said, Samba, how has he not dived? How on earth has he saved that? But it was just crazy because he literally didn't move and then just basically went, just stuck his hand up and he just popped it over the bar. It was unbelievable.
Don Goodman went, oh, he was clearly delaying the dive. No shit, pal, he was just still stood there.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson took a decent penalty. Cafu took a reasonable penality.
Steve Cooks was the best penalty because he took the penalty, scored the penalty, went full Stuart Pearce.
I mean, I don't think I saw that bit because I was just like, I just need to take 5 seconds just to have a little kind of break to myself. Is it Sanderberg? This was a nice penalty. He's a good player. I really enjoyed kind of what he did.
Yeah, not seen much of him, but the games that I have seen this season, he's looked way above the Championship. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think if someone doesn't buy him, this summer, I'd be very, very surprised. Apparently, he's got a release clause in his contract. I don't know how much that is, but he was looked like a proper player, massive as well. Then Joe Lolly came up. I mean, never have I felt less confident about somebody coming up to take a penalty than when he came up. I was like, nah, this is not going in. I think I messaged my dad saying, nah, well, we're gonna be stuck here a little bit longer, because there was no way that penalty was being. It would have been saved anyway, but it wasn't going in.
Of all the players to miss,
it's a shame.
It kind of works both ways. Like, he was probably the player that probably would have been okay for him to miss because he's that sort of, he'd probably been able to laugh it off sort of thing had it not gone the right way. But he was just too casual about it, wasn't he? He just, the way he stepped up, you could just sort of tell he was a bit not quite clued in. And then,
it said that the keeper had gone. That's the worst thing about it is, I mean, at that moment, whatever you were going to do, change your mind because the keeper had gone. He dived before it even got to the ball. And I was like, at that point, just roll it down the kind of thing, but then still went to blast it top bins, and then it was in somebody's bins, but it wasn't in the ground. Goes, Jesus Christ. Chrissy Waddle was jealous of that one. So yeah, then Robinson? No, I don't doubt. God, they would have booed the living hell out of him. I don't think there was enough. So Berger scored. Then was it Morgan Gibbs White?
Yes, he was the one who Samba saved the last penalty. Yeah.
Oh no, there must be another one then. So that Unjai did score his penalty because I was like, oh, this guy might be gone. He scored, and then I've missed someone at some point. Oh, we kind of covered the Forest ones. And then obviously Morgan Gibbs White missed the deciding penalty and couldn't have happened to a nicer twat. Yeah, wasn't doing that at the end, was he? So yeah, Forest win 3-2 on penalties, and apparently Huddersfield are looking forward to beating us in the playoff final due to what their fans have been saying. So yeah. Let's get that one started.
I did see a tweet today where a disgruntled Huddersfield fan had said, "Oh, so it's the entire world versus Town at the playoff final, then, is it?" I was like, "Oh, well, with tweets like that, yeah, it probably will be. You absolute toss, Pete."
They can have the Derby fans join them if they want.
Well,
Do they want that?
Well, they won't need to, because after what happened after the game last night, surely everybody will want Huddersfield to go up anyway, thanks to one particular Nottingham Forest fan.
It comes under karma, doesn't it? And that's the kind of that'll be the Matthew's nervous kind of thing from now on. Yeah, I mean, he's not a fan of football. That guy's just an idiot who dresses up his stupid, violent behaviour in the guise of, I go to the football and the football gets me upset about things. I'm sure other things get him upset in life.
So what for those that missed it, what we're talking about is the fact that Forest had won, pitch invasion underway. One guy sees it as an excuse to not just headbutt Billy Sharp, who was stood there minding his own business, not doing anything in the Sheffield United technical area.
Former Forest player Billy Sharp as well, which kind of makes it even more kind of grating.
Absolutely just steamrolled the guy, head down, straight into his cheekbone. It looked awful. Like, these are sort. Well, heard on the news this morning that the guy they'd got the guy who did it, and he'd been arrested, and rightly so, because that's the sort of stuff that means he's never going to football again.
yeah, I did see that Forest had come out and said that he'll be getting a lifetime ban when they actually sort of figure out who it is, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't think it's the lifetime ban he should be worrying about. It's the several months of jail service that he's going to have to basically serve for the assault.
It's assault.
That he committed on another human being.
It's nothing less than assault. Is it right that Sharp's had to have stitches?
Yeah, he had to have stitches to close the wound on his, I'm assuming, on his face.
So yeah, it's assault. He'll be seeing the inside of a cell for a good while for that one.
It's stupid, and I know pitch invasions are a tale as old as time, and the usual kind of thing. The club came out and asked the fans to stay off the pitch, and if you stay off the pitch, the players will come round and do a lap of honour with it being the last game of the season and all that kind of thing. And of course, selfish idiots run on the pitch because they want their moment in the sun, and you just think, part of me, the people that bleat, oh, you spoiled my thing because I stayed at my seat. Yeah, but you're probably on the top tier of the stand, so you had no chance of getting on the pitch. That's why you didn't get on there in the first place. And maybe, but I don't know. It's a worrying trend at the moment of fans going on the pitch. Flares have obviously become introduced into stadiums, which were never a thing before, and it's this kind of free-wielding kind of we can do whatever we want. Like, we can do whatever we want in a football stadium. You can't do whatever you want in a football stadium, and that goes for both sets of people. So I think and again, we don't know the background of it, but obviously there's videos of Ollie Bernie stomping on a Forest bat. Now, again, like we said, we don't know what the background of that is. We know that the Forest, the guy, I can't call him a fan because he's not a fan. He's not a fan of football or anything. The idiot who charged Billy Sharp. We don't know. We know what the background of it is. He's a moron. He's probably drunk. He's probably an idiot. He's definitely an idiot, and he's done something absolutely just apprehensible. But what the hell's going on with Ollie McBurney? If there's a backstory to it, fine, give us what the backstory is. But to stomp someone on the floor as a professional footballer, you know what you're doing with your feet. You know your feet are weapons, because you don't kick people like other people kick people, because you kick things for a living. So it'll be interesting to see what that is, because if we're calling one person a thug and an idiot, then the other person's a thug and an idiot as well.
Absolutely. We'll take a short break. We'll come back to just finish up scores and the like, see how the week panned out, and then we'll look ahead to the future. So we will be right back.
Oh, go away.
Recording in progress.
And we're back. something. I was looking at how much time we had, and I was like, I'm not gonna get it in, and I think it's we've still got some score stuff to cover, but it was something that Matt mentioned, and I was like, might have an interesting debate possibly. I personally believe that alcohol should not be allowed in and or around football stadiums. I know that that might not be a popular opinion, Paul, but I just think when you put two and two together and you end up with violence, if you remove one of the twos, is it just going to make things a little bit easier and a little bit smoother?
Well,
I thought he was paused for dramatic effect. Oh no, there he is.
Oh, he's back.
No, I was lucky enough to go and see a Euro qualifier, so it was a UEFA qualifying game, England versus Bulgaria at Wembley.
No.
Time.
Oh, he's back. Your
Oh,
audio went that time.
Sorry, apologies. But yeah, I don't know if it's still a thing, but UEFA banned alcohol within the ground, and you still got trouble. Not particularly at that game, but
and if I'm honest, as it came out of my mouth, I was like, I don't suppose that stops anybody going and having 10 pints before the game.
That would be my sort of problem. It'd be a case of you're never going to be able to close all pubs in a city or a town the day of a game of football. So, and you've always got the thing as well of if people don't think they can have a drink at the football but they still want to get absolutely tanked up, they'll just have 10 cans of White Lightning at home before they go to the ground. So I think the idea is I'd almost sort of go the opposite way. Although that makes it sound like it's
serve everybody alcohol. All the kids, all the pregnant women, all the people should have at least a beer in each hand and free refills. Is what Paul's saying.
Basically, what I'm looking to introduce is a 10-drink minimum. So I'd go the opposite way. I think this was actually covered in. Oh, Christ, was it Tracy Crouch or something like that? Had done an independent review of football. I don't know if it was Football Ground or just football as a whole. And I think they were looking into the no alcohol in the view of the pitch rule, and that it was outdated. It sort of come in at a time where hooliganism was at its worst, and that was an easy way to curb things. But I think we're back at the point now where I think we're, along with, I don't even know if it happens in Scotland, but I think we're the only nation where you can't get a drink in view of the pitch at a game. They do it at the rugby. You can get a drink at the rugby, absolutely fine. You can get a drink at, I know it's not like a rowdy sport of that, but you can drink at the tennis, for example. You can have a drink when you're watching golf. It is the only sport where you can't have open alcohol in sight of the actual playing area.
I think part of the issue is it's a cultural thing. It's. I know there's issues with hooliganism in other parts of the world and stuff like that, but on the continent, it's not a drink-related thing. And maybe this isn't a drink-related thing. Maybe it's just an idiot-related thing.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. It's always going to be a case of if you've got people who are sort of exposed to wanting to cause trouble. Mm-hmm. 0 pints, 10 pints isn't going to change that. If they want to start something, they're going to start something.
And that's what that was the two sides of what Matt was saying. The thing I picked up on was idiot who's had too much to drink, and I was like, when you've got that two and that two, And I was like, well, if you remove the alcohol from the situation, you're still left with the idiot, I suppose. And somebody who's prepared to do that is potentially not bothered by how many drinks they've had.
Part of the problem is that some of the Forest fans were out drinking from midday
Saturday.
Midday Saturday, probably carried on right through Tuesday, but they were definitely out in Nottingham on Tuesday. So that, like, if you go into the city centre at 12 o'clock yesterday, it was a sea of red. And that won't have just been like, everyone gathering and talking about the footy. It'll be getting absolutely lashed up, ready to go to the match. And you just think, it's a... Like I said, it's a cultural thing, unfortunately. It's a cultural thing that's been built up over years and years and years. And it's a shame that it's that kind of thing of, right, you go to the footy on a Saturday, you go and get absolutely, shit-faced beforehand. You go to the game, you probably can't remember it, and you might, and then you carry on drinking afterwards. And does something need to change, or will it change? Can it change? I think that's the worst thing about it, is that, and not that you'll see anything at Wembley, but I doubt you'll see anything at Wembley. But the thing, it'll still be the same, because the kickoff will be about 5 o'clock. So they'll get in the bus and they'll have like this 24-pack of Stella, and they'll drink them on the way down on the M1 on the way down to Wembley. They'll go out in Wembley and around there, and buy the drinks, and then go in there and do whatever goes on there.
I think the bans go in the right way. I think when this guy, like I was saying, is going to get a lifetime ban. He's also probably going to see some prison time, and that might not necessarily affect him. I don't know this, but I can't speak for his personal circumstances. But I imagine in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, it's going to be a situation where it's going to be like, I've grown up, I've matured, and whatever. I quite fancy going down and watching the football, and I can't do that, and I'll never be able to do that. And the more things like that, like, not wanting to bring up a particular subject, but like when we were going through the heavy racism sections that we were going through and saying, coming down harder on people is a way to make that change. Is a way for people to say, maybe if I didn't do it, then I wouldn't be in a situation where I'd have to stop going to the football, or if I'll never go into Forest's ground again, or I'll never get the opportunity to see that player live, or that sort of thing spreads. They speak to one person, they speak to somebody else, and they say, I don't have those opportunities. But it's still just unfortunate, because somebody spoke to me who has absolutely zero interest in football and said, was there an incident in the football last night where somebody got headbutted? Like, yeah, that's what's been taken away from that game, not how Forest are moving on to the final, that sort of thing. Somebody got headbutted.
That's it. It's it was a good game of football as well. Depending on, it doesn't depend on what your preferences were. It was a good game of football.
I'd like to say it was nice for the neutral, but obviously we have slightly more loyalty to your way, and I was nervous as watching that game last night. It was awful.
I wasn't even watching it, but I was checking the score like crazy on BBC, like refreshing it like as much as possible, going, and looking at I was like, are they out? I don't know, they're like aggregate. Okay, all right. Oh, it's gone to extra time. That's a bad sign. Oh no, it's gone to penalty.
I would like to say that I'd never want to go through it again, but I kind of get the feeling in like 2 weeks' time.
If anybody's interested, everybody barring the Nottingham Forest fan had Forest down to win in 90 minutes. So, one of those. Matt, you also didn't have Sheffield United down to win. You went with a 1-1 draw. So no points there. However, all 4 members of the podcast predicted Johnson to score a goal, and score he did. Unfortunately, that means everybody got a point by the end of the week, but adding my 1 point to my previous 2 points wins the week for me. Think I might be on for winning the season. Now then, I have written down next week's prediction, but I'm reliably informed by the gentleman who knows a lot more about it than I do, that it's quite a way away. I couldn't find it originally. I was like, hang on a minute, Forest have won? Surely there's another game? And I was like, literally, tomorrow, no, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I was like, by the time I got to like Wednesday, I'm like, got to Saturday, like, what is happening? There should be another game. I text you boys, it's like 29th. It's not to date the podcast, that is 11 days away. It's like, what?
So the playoffs they've kind of been shafted by the Queen's Jubilee this year,
haven't they?
As they normally take place 3 consecutive days in the last May bank holiday weekend. But obviously, as the late May bank holiday has been cruelly taken away from us and pushed to the start of June, they had to amend the schedule for the playoffs. So the League One playoff final is this coming Saturday.
It is.
League 2, I think. League 2.
No, League One. Sunderland versus Wickham.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got Sunderland versus Wickham on Saturday. The final day of the Premier League season is the day after that. Then the following Saturday, I believe, will be the League 2 playoff final. You've also got the Champions League in Paris on the same evening. And then on the Sunday, it's the most important game of the weekend. Nottingham Forest versus Huddersfield.
So, because of how far away it is, and to make a prediction at this point in time with something that's so far away, anything could happen in that time. I believe, and it's absolutely not to get another podcast out of this situation at all, we are going to podcast again before the final, somewhere around this time next week. So I will actually close my book for now. Where does that leave us? We've got news and reviews. News, as it's known, this week in football. So outside of Nottingham Forest going through to the final, what's been going on in the football world? Must be quiet at this time.
Usually you'd imagine it would be quite quiet, but we have actually had quite a significant step forward, I'd say. Certainly for the men's game. Saying that, I have now lost... Oh, here we go. So, Blackpool's Jake Daniels becomes the UK's first male professional footballer to come out publicly as gay since Justin Fashanu in 1990. So yeah, this is a guy who's in Blackpool's first team. I think he's only a young lad. I think he's only 19.
19, yeah.
As a 19-year-old lad, and he's obviously felt comfortable enough that he doesn't have to hide anything about his personality anymore, which is absolutely the way it should be.
I think that's what he said in the interview. I think what he said in the interview was, I feel comfortable enough to.
Yeah, he actually he even said actually I this is a direct quote from him. I told my mum and my sister the day after we played Accrington and I scored 4. So it just shows how much of a weight off the shoulders it was and a massive relief. And it's just like, it's good that he can sort of, like, not laugh at the situation as such, but like that he can sort of take a little bit of sort of humour in it. That obviously he's just like, if I've been playing with this massive weight on my shoulders, and now that I've unburdened myself, if I can play to, like, my true potential, look out, because I'm going to be smashing the goals in left, right, and centre. I don't know. Is he a forward or is he a midfielder? I don't know if that's...
Yeah, it was quite interesting because I think what they'd said was that obviously he kind of come through the ranks, and at 17 they were like, "Whoa, this kid is like the guy," and he just went off the boil, and I think that I got a head of player engagement or something like that, and they sent him to see him to kind of get kind of mental health and like some like therapy and stuff like that, and he just kind of basically with this guy was like, I think they said it took a while for him to kind of like effectively come out to this guy, but he just in the end, once he told him, he was like, I've got to get this out. I've got to get this off my chest because it's just, it's the thing that's stopping me like having a career in football, which I want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think he said like the moment that he told this player engagement guy that that felt like the weight, and then obviously he's kind of gone from there to tell other people, and then obviously tell everybody. And yeah, it's kind of one of the things where it's kind of the old kind of things are trod out of in this day and age it shouldn't have to happen, but it has happened, and hopefully it takes that kind of positive step forward because it's a long time. I think it's when you look at that kind of and the unfortunate thing is, kind of speaking as a Forest fan, the Justin Fashanu has a nasty kind of thing to it, because I think he was at Forest at the time when he did come out, and he was immediately pushed to one side because no thanks.
I was going to say Cloughie wasn't exactly helpful with the situation. I think he even condemn him, like sort of in the press and stuff. And I think he even came out and said, like, I don't know why he's done it or something like that.
I think that was John Fashanu as well. Obviously, his brother, kind of Gladiators fame, definitely kind of washed his hands of him, kind of thing. It was a difficult one because he lived a very unusual lifestyle, a hidden lifestyle that people didn't understand and stuff like that. And I think there was some aspects to his social life that was, but Clough knew everything, and I think that's the worst kind of thing about it, is that Clough would have known about where Justin Fashanu was at, but still kind of wouldn't help, wouldn't support, wouldn't kind of thing. And then obviously when he came out, I think basically because he was going to get exposed by some terrible rag, decided to do it himself, and the complete support was removed from underneath him at Forest, which is a massive stain on kind of Clough's record, really.
Yeah. I think, like, I imagine, like, obviously I know it's easy for us to sort of like say this, obviously we don't have to go through it, but I suppose the hope is that 10, 15, 20 years down the line, a player won't have to come out as gay. Like, it shouldn't even be the case now. Like, your sexual preference doesn't have anything to do with your talent as a footballer, or as a baseball player, or as a basketball player, an American football player, a tennis player. It's got nothing to do with your ability to play any sport, or be an office worker.
Well, it goes back to the military thing, doesn't it? Does your sexual preference matter when you're training to be a trained killer? Does it
Yeah.
does it make a difference? Does it change how you pull the trigger of a gun? It doesn't, and that's going back years and years and years, and it's like, oh, because that person's sexual preference is that way, does that mean he kicks the ball different? Does that mean he hits the ball different? Does that mean he throws the ball different?
It's
What
going
difference
back
does
to
it make?
it's going back to that same conversation that we had about the ingrained in culture, and it's that, the kind of thing of that nobody even discusses the sexuality of female footballers, and they're openly gay, openly married, openly in relationships, and that's not a problem, and we can discuss why if we want, but we know why, because we know what the numbskull fan that would say something to them has a different attitude towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the numbskull fan, and there'll be footballers as well. You hear it from people now. Just because somebody is attracted to another man doesn't automatically mean they are attracted to you because you are a man. Because I think this is this thing of they don't have uncontrollable urges, and I think this is this stupid thing of they're not immediately going to be. We saw it with Strictly because they had two blokes dancing together. What? They're not interested in you.
It's just crazy, isn't it? It's such a baffling sort of way to.
But it's such an outdated concept.
Yeah.
It's so, like, you're talking about something from the 90s. And then still, since the 90s, it's like, really? It's so outdated.
Bottom line in it, though, it's just outdated is the exact word I was going to use. But regardless, a footballer is a footballer. Whether you're male, female, gay, straight, pink, purple, orange, black, whatever, does not matter. If you're a professional footballer, you're a professional footballer. Just let them get on with it. Like, I would hazard a guess that Joe Public, in their normal place of work, will more than likely know somebody who has maybe somebody, a sexual orientation that is different to what may be considered the norm. Doesn't stop them being able to do accounts or like bloody bake things or whatever the job might be. Just let them get on with it. It's their own life. Piss off if you're not gonna deal with it. That it's your problem, not theirs. And that's, I've always looked at it that way.
Anything else from a news perspective?
Hull City have had their retained list issued, and it may have thrown up at least one surprise, perhaps. The three headline releases, if you like. Two that aren't so surprising. Tom Huddleston has gone, and Tom Eaves. So apparently, if you call Tom, not a good time to be at Hull City. Eaves is a difficult one for me because he did all right for what he was needed for, but he struggled this year in the Championship.
Do you want to know what that is, Stu?
Because he's not a Championship striker.
There we go.
But this is what I'm saying, though. He did the job that was needed. When they needed him last season, he was there to kind of link up with like Wilkes and the rest of them to get him over the line, and they did that. But unfortunately, he's a little bit out of his depth. I have no doubt that guy will have signed certainly a League One contract by the end of the week. I think that they'll be straight in for it. Tom Huddleston, again, probably might go into coaching. He seems to be at that point in his career. I think I can't see another club particularly coming in to pick him up as playing staff, but we'll see.
He must be late 30s?
35 he is.
Oh, so he's only mid 30s. Hey, you never know. He might get Derby are probably crying out for players in League One, so
we might swap him for Curtis Davis then in that regard.
He is late 30s.
Yeah, but he can still play football.
True.
But the surprising one was Richie Smallwood, club captain. So unfortunately, he has been let go. Again, he was largely anonymous in some games this season, but he was very much a Marmite player.
I think his goose was cooked when he decided to take his shin pads off in the 92nd minute at the Riverside. Do you reckon it might be one of those ones where he's been released, but it's on a sort of a proviso of you're more than welcome to sort of stay training with the squad. If we see something, we might offer you a new deal. Blah blah blah.
I mean, I don't know how we'd ever find that out until sort of training resumes again. But you'd have thought in close season it'll be up to the players individually to keep themselves in the nick. But if he hasn't signed for anybody by the time we come back, I can't see that being an issue. He's had in the grand scheme of things, he's not been there the greatest amount of times. He's had two seasons, but then when he's been there in the thick of it, getting you out of League One, I think yes, he's been paid his wages, but it'd be nice to think he would be owed that sort of benefit of being able to use the facilities and stuff still. So there also is a whole host of like the under 23s and the under 18s and all that have been offered contracts, but I'll not go through that now because if anybody from West Ham's listening, they'll just sign them in about 3 years' time. So, but yeah, that was from the whole side of things. That was pretty much it. Nothing. Obviously, they'll all be living at large on their hollybobs now. So,
what in Turkey, along with those lucky fans.
Oh, I haven't heard anything else about that yet, so I'm not sure that's happened yet. I imagine it'll be like 2 days before the season starts, so they can just come back hammered and carry on, as we were talking about before.
I suppose on that regard then, I didn't think there was anything Borough related, but I suppose technically it is related to the club. They've announced that they have ended their partnership with Hummel from a kit supplier perspective, and they have agreed a new deal with Italian sportswear giant Area, or Area, I believe is how they pronounce it. So Area was the company that did the Borough kits for about 20 years when they were in the Premiership for that prolonged period of time. It's the shape of the emblem is a bit sort of like two rhombuses connected to each other, two squares tilted basically. But they're going to have to fight. They're going to have to fight for northeast space, as they're also signed on to be the kit supplier for Hartlepool United. So exciting stuff.
Who knew that Hartlepool's away kit was going to be red and white next season?
Well, this is the thing. So obviously, with Area not being a huge kit supplier to teams in the UK, the one good thing that's come out of it is that Borough might get some sort of bespoke kit out of it, like they have been with Hummel, because there's not a lot of teams that are done by Hummel either in the UK. So, it's the one good thing that comes out of it. Say again, Matt?
I've always liked Hummel kits.
Can't beat the chevrons. Love a bit of chevrons.
Well, apparently you can, but we've had a full season of that. So.
Any other news?
Sort of Premier League team-wise, although it's not Premier League strictly, I suppose we have to mention the fact that the Bin Dippers won another trophy on penalties. So Liverpool lifted the FA Cup, beating Chelsea, who have now, I think, become the first team to lose in 3 consecutive finals.
Yep, Mason Mount continued his Wembley curse.
And just to stick the boot into the men's team, the Chelsea women's team won the FA Cup that same weekend, so well done, fellas. But yeah, so unfortunately Liverpool are now 2 trophies deep this season, so fingers crossed for Man City and Real Madrid in the coming weeks to shove it to them.
One thing with the Chelsea Liverpool Cup final, obviously it was the second time this season they'd met in a cup final, and over a combined 240 minutes of play, they're still waiting for the first goal in a domestic cup final this season. So,
entertainment.
But yeah, the Premier League wise, it's going into the last weekend, as Paul mentioned earlier. Man City just need to equal or better, I guess. Liverpool's result. Liverpool need Man City to lose and then win, don't they? Essentially.
Yeah, there is a ridiculous scenario that's doing the rounds on Twitter where if Aston Villa beat City 6-0 and Liverpool draw with insert team that Liverpool are playing on the weekend 5-5, there would be the need for a one-off playoff game to decide the Premier League title.
The only way that happens is if miraculously all of the games finish at 4:20.
Start at 4:20, commence at 4:20, just played entirety for that minute.
Yep.
Yeah, the interesting, I'd say the interesting thing for the Premier League is more towards the bottom of the division, really. As it stands, Burnley.
We're going to talk about it because we're going to jinx it.
As it stands, Burnley are still in pole position to be the third team to drop into the Championship.
Are we too late? Not that I'm bothered about one of these teams, but are we too late to start the petition of let Forest and Huddersfield have a nice day out at Wembley? Just let both of them go up, and we'll just bin off Leeds and Burnley this time round, just for once.
Well, I tell you what, we'll agree it, but only if we can throw Everton in as well. They go down and they just pick a team at random, maybe a team that missed out on the playoffs altogether by like one place. But yeah, as it stands, Burnley are in the bottom three, but they do have a game in hand on Leeds. They play Aston Villa tomorrow night at Villa Park, knowing that a draw will get them out of the relegation zone. Everton are at home to Crystal Palace, knowing that a win will see them safe. And then Leeds' last game of the season is away at Brentford, who they have beef with from the last season in the Championship. So I'm sure that Brentford will definitely not be going hard for that game.
And isn't that also, the return of possibly the coolest head in football to his former club in Pontus Jansson?
Well, it's at Brentford, so...
Oh, well, even better then. I will be looking at the odds of a red card in that game.
Well, Leeds had 2 in 2 games, didn't they? They had 2 straight reds in 2 games running. So, think on, lads, think on. So, yes, the games, the Premier League games on Sunday will be watched with bated breath, let's put it that way.
Anything else? No, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, as this was going to be a short podcast, and as it's the... I was going to say second to last, but it's probably not even second to last. As it's one of the last, Andy's not going to let us down, and he's going to get us a quiz. You'd be wrong, because after 3 separate attempts, 3 different searches, and a multitude of curse words, apparently the internet has been scrubbed of all football-based quizzes.
Paul shut them all down.
Yeah. I was going to put in brackets that Paul hasn't already done. Because there was this point, it was like, 4. No, we're not having their quiz. So, unfortunately, A, there is no quiz, and B, apparently there are no football quizzes in existence anymore, because, I don't know, reasons.
For those of you that are listening and not watching, Paul was just telling everybody that's on YouTube that there are 2 football quizzes that he's not done yet.
so good luck finding them. So there it is. We don't need to wish anybody any good luck for anything at this point in time, because we will return in around about a week to do all of the predicting for the final, the nail biting for the collective, and everything else. It just leaves my job at the end of a football podcast to thank you gentlemen for taking myself and these lovely people through the sometimes murky waters of the football world. We will be back next week talking more football, more things to come, and anything that's happened between now and then. And that's that. We shall see you then. Bye. So there we go. What do you think of that? Well done to Nottingham Forest for getting through to the final. Fingers crossed for them that they will win the final and go on to be promoted. Before you go, just while I've got you those last couple of minutes, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment, and drop us a review if you feel so inclined. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. We've got some social media links and an email button. You can drop us a line, let us know how you're getting on and what you're going to be doing while the football's not on. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.